What is up, everybody? My name is Blob, and welcome to this next episode of PAWS. And today we are going to be building for the beautiful Clouded Leopard. Now, before we begin, you're probably wondering why it's suspended up in the air like this. And that's because I done goofed. I didn't start the recording when I wanted to. So this bit in the air is just to sort of show you a little bit of what I've done. It's not much at all. Literally a little bit of pathing layout and a trench that I built to be a dry moat for the leopard as well. But yeah, I apologize for that. All the terrain work you'll get to see in foliage work, so don't worry, you haven't missed anything important. But literally where that D is there, you see the big sort of elongated curved out D. That's going to be the viewing area for the P.A.W.S leopard, and then the thicker path is where the main arterial path is going to carry on down the hill toward other big cats. But let's jump on in and start the speed build. So here we are in the speed build portion of the video. Like I said, that trench is already in there and the pathing is as well. But the first thing we are going to be doing is sort of building up the terrain. And the reason for this is, in my mind, I kind of wanted this amphitheater feel. So obviously where the path curves around the corner, I wanted the terrain to sort of follow suit and also go uphill. And I had this idea of a waterfall that I wanted to make as well. Those of you that follow me on Twitter will probably have seen that already. But the main idea is I wanted to sort of deviate away from the bulky aquatic waterfall pieces and try my hand at making my own using the effect pieces in the game. But I'm just trying to get the main sort of shape of the habitat done first. So I go back and I take the rock bundles that I've got from the jaguar habitat, and I just start building out a little bit of a rear wall for this whole habitat. This habitat is going to be sort of similar to the jaguar habitat as well, in the sense that it's not going to be fully completed. It's going to have the habitat that's done, it's going to have the viewing area, the main viewing area, but later on I'm just going to be doing a little bit of detailing on the meet and greet section. This is going to be another one of the species that are going to have a unique meet and greet experience. It's probably going to be using the same layout as the cheetahs, but I'm obviously going to be adapting it and changing it so that it's more suited to the clouded leopards as opposed to the cheetahs. But yeah, the general premise is going to be the same. It's pretty much going to be the last species it's actually going to be suitable for. Obviously we've still got things like tigers still to come, and you're obviously never going to be able to do an up close meet and greet with any of them. So just putting in some plaster wall pieces here just to build up the dry moat. I call it a dry moat. It's not actually a dry moat because I end up putting water in there where obviously the waterfall flows down. But I build it up on both sides, and then the sides, well, I think both sides I end up changing the color to match the pathing. I've managed to find a pretty nice color code that actually seems to match this default pathing quite nicely. So it's something I've been keeping hold of and been using whenever I can, just to sort of make the pathing look a little bit bigger than it actually is. For those of you that saw my last video, the rock foliage terrain work tips, you'll see me going and putting this all to practice. I'm putting in the main rock work for the waterfall. I kind of did this because I wanted it to be a small streaming waterfall as opposed to just one big body of water. I want it to be broken up into little cascading areas, and I'm trying to get the rock work to be placed and fall in such a way that I could work out visually where the water would be falling and bouncing off of. So just making this very narrow channel, and then as I work my way up the actual rear of the habitat, you'll see me sort of start to snake my way along. So the water sort of, or the crevice I should say, sort of goes up to the right, and then it slams back up to the left as well, just so that it gives it 2 points to sort of bounce off of. And I really love how it looks. I've not really dabbled much with these VFX pieces since they introduced the ones in the aquatic pack, but really glad I did because I absolutely adore how it turned out. So much so that I might actually call this place Leopard Falls. Obviously we've got Cougar Creek, we've got the Lion Lookout, so a bit more naming of areas is always very much appreciated, just to help you work out where you're going, and it helps for signage as well. But yeah, this is literally just going to be a combination of the waterfall mid pieces, the top pieces, and then I start using some of the splash pieces. The only thing that slightly bothers me about the bottom rapids I end up using is that I don't feel like the waterfall of this size would generate such a big amount of splash and foam, but that's my only complaint. Obviously, it's a trivial thing, it's menial, so it is what it is. You have to work with what you got. And then we're going through and obviously escape proofing it, if that's what you want to call it. Nothing you haven't seen before, just using these fence pieces just to block off the rear of the habitat. Obviously, Ama leopards are very good climbers. They're able to rotate their back ankles 180 degrees, which means that they're actually able to climb down trees head first in order to hunt their prey. And that's something that's unique to only 3 different types of cat as well. Marbled cats and margays, I think, are the only other 2 that have that unique adaptation. So yeah, they're pretty unique in that regard. And speaking of unique, they don't actually fall into either genus of big cat or cat in this sanctuary. Everything else that's going to be situated in this sanctuary is going to be either a feline or a panther. But this fits in neither. It falls into the Neophilis subfamily. So very, very cool. They're very unique, even though they're not particularly interesting or large. They do have some uniqueness about them, even though they're not a big ticket cat, as it were. But that doesn't mean I want their habitat to be any less spectacular nonetheless. Gone through and put in the buffalo grass, and then I start working in some of the other foliage pieces as well. Just trying to work out what I'm going to do with this big space on the right hand side as you come down from the jaguar habitat. Again, I think I'm going to be for the second part of this whole sanctuary. I think I'm going to be running it very similar to I did with the first half. And that is that any little detailing bits I'm going to sort of be doing off camera. But if there's any substantial changes, then obviously I'll cover it in one of the videos when I get an opportunity. But for the most part, any little detailing in areas like this that just need a little bit of TLC to bring it all together, I probably won't be covering that in most videos, because otherwise they're going to end up being too many videos of just detailing, or there's going to be too many videos of me just padding out areas that really you aren't going to want to see, because it's going to be a lot of the same of what I've done already in certain areas. And this is going to be on the shorter end of the spectrum with regards to video length today. I do apologize for that. The next one is probably going to be a little bit longer, because I'm going to be doing a tiger habitat for the next one. Cannot wait to get into that. I'm still deciding what variation I'm going to use, whether I'm going to use the Bengal or the Siberian. If you guys have any preferences, then obviously let me know in the comments, but I'm sort of tilting toward the Bengal tiger a little bit more, because the Siberian tiger can then go nearer to the snow leopard dome when that finally makes its appearance. This is going to be a very unique habitat for me, in the sense that I'm going to be using some of these bramble bushes. I don't really use them that often. I've never really been a fan of their texture, but at the same time, I think it works in certain circumstances in this habitat, like where the rock work goes down into the moat. I think it works quite nicely. The dark green in comparison to the lighter green of the buffalo grass also makes both textures kind of pop, which is really nice. And this big tree that I've put on the right hand side here, that ends up moving as well, because when I put the clouded leopards in, it turns out they didn't have enough climbing space. So I've moved the tree over a little bit and stuck in a generic climbing frame, but I'm going to remake my own at some point, just so that it looks a little bit more handmade, hand custom, rather than using the in-game blueprints. Sorry. But you can see it's all starting to do its usual thing. It's starting to very slowly build its way up with the layers as I go through. The creosote bushes obviously have inevitably made their way in here as well. I actually kind of like the contrast between the creosote bushes and the bramble bushes. This might be something I use at a later date when I come to do the Siberian tiger habitat as well. But then I started putting in my smaller rocks. I end up putting them in last this time. I was a bit worried that this habitat was going to be too small, and for that reason I didn't want the small rocks to be taking up unnecessary traversable area, so I end up putting them in last, because then it means I could sort of put them in where I know that plants are probably going to be causing traverse issues, so that way it all works out just hunky-dory. And then go along and start putting a fence along the edge of the moat. This is something you've seen me do a few times here with regards to animals with moats. I believe I did it with the cheetah habitat. And yeah, just building it up as we go. I really liked how the viewing area for this one turned out as well, because I end up reusing the cover for the meteorite. I'm still in two minds about whether I want to get rid of that or not, but at the moment it's still sitting over there. And then we end up using the hammock piece as well. Obviously this is a unique enrichment item that they can use along with the sun bears. I think the sun bears and the clouded leopards are the only two that can use it, which is very, very cool. But obviously because of the terrain and how it works in this game, as soon as I put it, it ended up messing up all of the terrain work I did at the start, which is very, very irritating, but it is what it is. I then go through and take a couple of logs from the P.A.W.S leopard habitat so that I can then bring it over so that they can cross this waterfall. And this works beautifully. I'm so happy with how this turned out. It gives a really nice look to the whole habitat when you're walking through here and you see the P.A.W.S leopard, or not the P.A.W.S leopard, the clouded leopards crossing over the log at the back here with the waterfall cascading down in the background. And this wooden beam that I put at the front here, I've only put it in because I thought that the keeper might have needed somewhere to be able to cross. Obviously the keepers can't walk along the logs, so I end up putting that plank in there just to make it a bit easier for them to get across as well. But I don't think there's actually anything over here that they need to be able to get to. Obviously if there was animal scat all over the place, they'd have to go and clean it up, but the water obviously takes care of itself. They don't need to do anything with regards to the hammock. So yeah, for the most part they're going to be staying over on the left hand side of the habitat. Just make sure as well that you are doing saves as you play this game. I've noticed it's been crashing a little bit recently. I don't know whether that's just because of the whole size of the sanctuary itself or what, but I know a few people have also mentioned to me that they've been doing builds and after 20-30 minutes the game seems to crash for some reason, which means that they lose their progress, which obviously sucks. So yeah, make sure you're saving the game because that might just be an issue and it might get fixed in a future update, hopefully, even if it's just a hotfix patch. But speaking of the left side of the habitat here, this is where the meet and greet section is going to be with the indoor shelter for the clouded leopards as well. I'm not going to be doing too much detailing with this part because, again, I'm going to be changing it a little bit with regards to layout. This is going to be another border of the sanctuary, so behind this habitat there's actually going to be nothing, so I'm just going to pad it out with a few trees, a few rocks, and that will then be fine. And then it will start to sort of curve back in land toward where the big staff hub is going to be situated. And in the background you can see I've decided to start using some of the old fence pieces. When I've been doing my streams and people come in and ask for a little bit of a tour and I go around and view the place, people always seem to take a liking to this fence that I made over at the cougar habitat, and it's never really been one that stood out to me. I liked how it looked, I felt like it was in keeping, but it's never something that I felt stood out to me and was sort of worthy of sort of saying I like this, you know. So it's really nice that people obviously have these different view sets and they come in and they say that they like things that I've never really paid much thought into. I might actually go back, now that I'm thinking about it, and recolor each of the panel pieces so that they are corresponding with the colors of a clouded leopard. I really think that'd be kind of cool as well. Then I go through and start decorating the middle area as well. The issue I had with this area was because it was so narrow, I couldn't actually get any of the larger creosote bushes in. So this is pretty much going to be one of the only patches of dirt in the entire sanctuary that isn't going to have creosote bushes in it, purely because of the size of the area. But I do a fairly decent job of decorating it nonetheless. These Siberian shrubs, they're pretty much another slept-on foliage piece as well. I was very tempted to do a follow-up video to my tips and tricks video, just going through and showing you what foliage I feel like is slept on, but again, I really want to encourage you to go through and see what you like the look of and what works for your builds and your aesthetic that you're going for. And then I go through and start adding the benches and whatnot. I think this area is sort of kind of open enough that it would actually give people a fairly nice opportunity to be able to sit down and have a bit of a rest. Obviously, if you didn't go through the central gardens where a lot of the main seating is situated and instead went behind the sandcat habitat, that's where this will bring you to. So you wouldn't have had that sort of opportunity to be able to sit down just yet. So I really want to sort of increase the seating around this area, because I know that if you miss the central gardens, then your opportunity to be able to sit down, maybe even have something to eat, if that's what if you've brought something along with you, just sit down, watch the clouded leopards, and eat something while taking the weight off of your feet, because this is a large place now. It does take a long time to sort of walk around, so seating is going to be absolutely essential. Now, these two clouded leopards are also going to be needing names. I've gone through and saved some animal suggestions for other animals that are going to be coming. I've had some suggestions for the snow leopards. I've had suggestions for the tigers as well. So some of those have already got names, but some of these smaller cats that people maybe haven't really thought too much about, they still need names. The female jaguar also needs a name. The male jaguar has a name. So it's literally just at this stage, the female jaguar and the two clouded leopards are going to need names. So feel free to hit those name suggestions down in the comments. Would love to see them. And here I'm just copying the cheetah meet and greet area. Like I said, I'm going to be adjusting this ever so slightly so that it's obviously more in keeping with the clouded leopard, as opposed to just a straight copy and paste of the cheetah area. I think I want to do a different indoor area for them as well, as opposed to using this brick log combination. But chances are I'm probably going to be hiding a little bit of this away. In front of the fence, just in front of the meet and greet, I want to do a barrier so that people can see others doing their meet and greet through the fence. Again, I think being able to see people do these experiences is sort of it's not give FOMO, but it's gonna give people a sense of, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that they offered that sort of thing. Next time that we're here, maybe we could do that. And we've had an insight about what it would actually entail, because you can watch other people have their experience with the clouded leopards as well. But here I'm just going around and finishing the barrier for the whole habitat. Like I say, this habitat is pretty much complete. The meet and greet area is going to get a little bit of an overhaul, but don't worry, I will show you that in the next episode. I just wanted to get the main outdoor bulk bit of the habitat done as well. I go through and add a bit of grass as well, because it turns out that their terrain needs weren't quite met, which is a shame, but it's just a little bit of short grass that they needed. So managed to get it all done. And yeah, so as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit me with name suggestions down in the comments below. And if you want to be the keeper that looks after these clouded leopards as well, let me know, because I've just placed a fresh keeper down, unnamed. And yeah, so if you want that chance, then let me know and I'll add you in. But thanks so much for watching. I'll leave you with the rest of the speed build. There's going to be a small overlook video at the end of the habitat. But thanks so much for watching. Peace out. Love you all. Bye bye.